respect the democratic process and move forward united. Quit crying.
Jamaica, do you see this Zutupe individual right here? And this traitor or 007 individual. I just want to let them know in regards to the court ruling today where the judge dismissed this, nonsensical claim or case by Mr. Paul Buchanan and literally favored into the Prime Minister. So therefore, the September 3 election result stand as it should, and there's nothing tangible to say it should not. But I have been, in this politics thing for a while. Sometimes we take a little break and come back. But we love the politics, and if we love the politics, we study the politics, and we have seen their intent, and it is just in a plain like day right now in relation to this situation, because the truth is they know that this ugly man, Zutupe looking individual, lost the election fair and square, but their intent, Jamaica, is to try to paint the Prime Minister as a dishonest individual, as an individual who have some form of influence in relation to the election result that took place September 3rd. And did they succeed? No. If you read the comment section, you would see that the people of Jamaica has literally gone, frustrated with this whole quest of Mr. Buchanan and also the PNP trying to create this controversy, this nonsensical quest here, right? Trying to say that the Andrew Holness or the Prime Minister did not won his seat fair and square. And that is what their intention was. It was never actually to challenge the result. It's just to paint this bad negative image that the Prime Minister did not win his seat. That was the reason. But we have to laugh because it no work. Zutupe looking man and 007, it did not work. And the people them still love Andrew Holness dearly. No matter what try. Look like blind and can't see it. And Jamaica, it is so funny that the Prime Minister not even fought upon them. Not even turn his head to even see what go on. Because he knows their true intent. And he care less in regards to that. His own intention or his focus is just to ensure that the system that is in place, that was disrupted by the hurricane, go back to normalcy, like water and light. Something that these dirty, wicked, diabolical, bad mind, just like what Daryl Vaz said, MPs are trying to prevent, especially the Ian Hills and the rest of them, so they can basically say yes, the government failed in terms of bringing Jamaica back to normalcy. And the truth is, Jamaica also, they are judging the administration, the government based on care packages, which is saturated rubbish, Jamaica, because the truth is, the only way you can say an administration or a government is successful in relation to certain disaster that disrupt the functioning and disrupt the productivity of a society is how fast that government bring things back to normalcy, so productivity can go ahead and business can open. And based on what the Prime Minister and the government put in place is to ensure that this take place. Like the light JPS that they're so adamant about, that the government is using the cat band to. It's just crazy. And also the road are the critical infrastructure that the Prime Minister and the government is actually working on to ensure that the people them, the business people them can get back on track. to ensure that the country becomes stabilized. They do not want that, they ignore it. Those type of things, and mostly focusing on care packages and mostly focusing on they're not seeing the Prime Minister. But as I said, their plea or their intent in relation to this Buchanan case, it not work, never work. And this make the people them love the Prime Minister even more.
The Supreme Court has dismissed the long-shot attempt by former PNP candidate Paul Buchanan to overturn the result of the September 3 general election in West Central St. Andrew. Buchanan was soundly beaten by Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness by more than 2,000 votes in the election. Since then, he has pursued a legal campaign seeking to bring into doubt the legitimacy of the result. But the Supreme Court ruled on Monday that he failed to meet the legal threshold to seek judicial review of the constituted authority's decision in the matter. Mahira Stewart has the details.
Justice Sonia Wint Blair has denied Buchanan leave to proceed with his judicial review claim. The matter centered on the constituted authority's September 30 ruling that Buchanan's allegations of election day irregularities did not justify voiding the election won by Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. Buchanan had written to the authority on September 16, submitting several affidavits which he claimed demonstrated serious breaches that compromised the fairness of the election. He asked the body to approach the election court under Section 52A of the Representation of the People Act. But the authority found that the affidavits lacked crucial detail and failed to establish that the election was conducted so badly as to substantially distort or subvert the process of a free and fair election as required by Section 37E of the Election Petition Act. Buchanan's legal team argued that he had provided abundant evidence of irregularities and that the authority acted unreasonably. They maintained that even a single serious irregularity could void an election. But the authority's attorneys said Parliament had granted the body clear discretion to determine whether a request should be pursued. They pointed out that the affidavit evidence contained gaps and that the authority's written reasons demonstrated a careful and lawful assessment. Justice Wint Blair agreed, ruling that the authority's decision-making process was sound and that the evidence before her did not meet, let alone surmount, the legal threshold required for judicial review. Judicial review, the judge explained, examines the process, not whether she as the judge would have reached a different conclusion. The court also held that Buchanan failed to justify why judicial review was more appropriate than an election petition, which is an alternative remedy he could have pursued within 21 days of the election result. Buchanan did not file such a petition, and the statutory time frame has now expired. Justice Wint Blair stressed that in election matters, time is of the essence. She suggested that it was unlikely that Buchanan's argument would survive a knockout blow should judicial review be granted. She notes that there is a need for finality in electoral matters. According to the justice, this protects the legitimacy, integrity, and certainty of resolutions concerning electoral disputes. The judge concluded that the case had no realistic prospect of success and therefore refused leave for judicial review. She made no order as to costs. Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
There's no case law in Jamaica that gives the Accompong Maroons the right of sovereignty that would empower its colonel to reject the government's offer to deploy the JDF to assist with rebuilding efforts in the area after Hurricane Melissa. That's according to Attorney at Law King's Counsel Pierre Rogers, who was speaking on Nationwide this morning on Monday.
If it were not an offer but a governmental move, I don't think he would be in a position to reject it. And the reason for that is quite simple. The Maroons are, to my mind, have been accorded a certain degree of self-determination and local government. But our case law is clear. The law in Jamaica is clear. At this point in time, no judicial authority has moved to give them or declare them to have the right of sovereignty, which would entitle them to make a rejection as a matter of right.
The comment by KC Rogers follows a statement by Accompong Maroon Colonel Richard Curry on the weekend that he's rejecting the offer, saying it would be a militarization of the area during the recovery effort. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness had committed to deploying JDF personnel to include engineers to assist affected residents with the re-roofing of houses damaged by Hurricane Melissa. This after a meeting with Curry on November 30 in Akompong. But days after the meeting, the Akompong Colonel has said the Maroons Council has decided to continue its recovery response, utilizing only civilian resources from adjoining communities along with partners both locally and internationally. Approximately 80% of these structures in the community, which has about 260 houses, were damaged or destroyed during the October 28 hurricane. Meanwhile, Rogers says the use of the term militarization by the colonel carries a negative connotation.
The use of the term militarization is pregnant with negative connotation. I don't believe for a moment that it was misused, and I think the chief used the word because he wanted to communicate a particular position. I kind of find it ironic because the truth is the Maroons, to one extent or another, have all benefited from the infrastructural works that are in Jamaica. The military is one of them. The engineers regiment has come to our rescue on several occasions, and the facility has been offered to them. Now, I find it curious that you would be willing to benefit from everything else, that is to say the material, because that's what he said in his release, but is relying on notions, I believe, of sovereignty to reject the presence of the military.
King's Counsel Pierre Rogers.